Good morning, and welcome to Middle Earth Readings. My name is Maggie. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham. I am the founder of maggieandrose.com, and I am here today launching a brand new evolved version of Middle Earth Readings. Thank you so much to all of you who took the time to send me your feedback as to how you have travelled with Middle Earth Readings over the last 2.75 something years. I don't know the exact date actually when Middle Earth Reading started, but it started in 2020, and we have been rolling with it since then, and the Hearth Space group has formed during that time, and so much has come into being, and it felt like the right time to look at this. The energy felt different, and I am really excited that it actually worked out that we are launching our brand new way of working together on a new moon. And it's a new moon in Suelo. So hello Maggie, I can see that your rune is Suelo. So we're going to be talking about Suelo today because we have the new moon in Suelo. And the theme that is coming through for this new moon, so this week of working with the new moon energy, is, there's two. There's hope and there's courage. Our ancestors, our Anglo-Saxon ancestors, called this month Hrether month, H-R-E. It's got the little D sound, Hrether. But we don't know very much about Hrether, so we know she was a goddess. And the Venerable Bede, whom we get a lot of our information about the calendar, he told us about this month, and he actually called it Rheda month. And then linguists have looked back and they've said, okay, what would that have been in the older times? Because he was still relatively modern. So it would have been, her name would have been Hrether, then it became Rheda, and then later in some places in the United Kingdom, they were still referring to a goddess called Leda, Leda month during this time. And there's very little that we know about Rheda other than this piece. And I've been feeling into this, ready for Middle Earth readings, ready for the month to come, working with this unknown goddess. I've done some reading that has been shared with others who have worked with her before. And she is largely claimed as being a goddess of victory. And we have the half month of Tewaz is going to be starting at the end of this month, so the rune of victory, so that feels really good. We're in the half month of Suelo at the moment, the rune of leadership and the sun and moving forward. There's new life, and she was said to offer victory not just in the context of battle but also in the context of competition, and also in the context of victory over death, it is said. And this really sent some tingles through me there, because I was feeling into this this energy of spring that we have here in the Northern Hemisphere, where we can feel, the spring is arriving. And so it's almost like the goddess, the divine goddess, walking upon the earth, and as her footsteps fall and we have new plant life growing, we see that. And so for me, when I'm thinking about working with this goddess, I'm thinking about this much more as it being the goddess energy of the land, so your local land, and seeing the presence of the divine in the land as you move about. And this is where hope comes from. The days are getting warmer, and plant life is budding and bursting through, and we have this presence of the goddess around us. But you might think about it as being the goddess of the land is the way that I'm working with her. And I'm also really conscious that we are coming to the end this week of our work working with Heimdall. So we have our Hygge session on Friday. We're going to be talking about what people have received through the course of the month, and then we're opening into a new month, and we're going to be working with the goddess Hela, the goddess of death. And she's got a really interesting theme that we're going to be working with, and the fact that her time has coincided with this month of the goddess who is the victory over death, and Hela is obviously the goddess of the underworld, is very interesting. So that's going to be really fun to play with. So let's see what we have got. Hello, we've got lots of people. Good morning to everybody, and you're sharing your runes, which is wonderful. So let me tell you just a little bit about the way that we're going to work with this. So we're going to be working in 4-week cycles through the lunar phases. And it just so happens that today is a new moon, so it's perfect for Middle Earth readings. In future, we'll be working in the week that the new moon falls. So if there is a new moon that week, we will be doing our new moon intentions and we'll be reading our runes in that context. So we're going to be looking at our runes in the context of intention setting, in the context of hope that we have with Retha, and in the context of courage. And we get courage through the planetary movements. And we have 3. And they are all apart from the moon, the new moon today, the moon in Suelo, bringer of hope, inspirer of leadership, calling us forward into our courage. We then have 3 movements all taking place on the 26th, so not until the end of the week. So this is a great time, this little gap, this little window of intention setting that's then going to be picked up, and we are going to be imbued with that courage and that hope as Odin moves into Suelo, as well as Frigg moves into Ewaz, the rune of partnership. We're going to be looking a little bit at Ewaz. And as the sun moves into Tewaz, the rune of victory, as I've said, and guidance. So this very strong energy of momentum is coming forward. So the intentions that we set this month are going to be particularly powerful for us. So you can do this in 2 ways. And I know many of you have already picked your runes, and that's absolutely fine. As we work together through the months from now on, you can do this in 2 ways. You can sit down as I did and say, these are the intentions that I already know that I've set for the month, and you can list them and voice them, and then you can draw a rune. Or you can draw the rune first, and then you can say, right, these are the intentions that are either bubbling up through my work with this rune, or you can do your list and then say, okay, this rune is going to be my spirit guide for the course of this month. So it doesn't matter whether you draw the rune before or afterwards, just in terms of the main thing there is just around what your conscious mind prefers. Does it prefer, I'm going to set my intentions first, and then those are going to come in for you. So for those of you who've got your runes, we are going to be working with 6 runes today. So for some of you, I can see quite a few. I can see a couple of you have got Suelo. In fact, yes, lots of Suelo runes coming up. So that's excellent. If we don't cover your rune today, we are going to cover it in one of the future weeks for this month. And the lovely Suzanne is going to be posting after this session to invite you to share not only your rune, but the intentions that you are setting with it, so that we can support each other and we can get a bit of accountability and we can witness each other, which is such an important part of the Northern tradition, is this aspect of witnessing. Okay, so what I would like you to imagine for a moment is, if any of you know the work of Elizabeth Gilbert, I'm sure that a lot of you know this, that she's such a genius just around creativity, and magic, and magical ways of working. And she talks about this concept of creative ideas floating around in the ether, waiting for their person, essentially waiting for their person to come, and then they land and they stay with us, and we either work with them and we bring them into birth, or sometimes it doesn't work out and we release them, which is why we do the releasing and completing work, and why that's important, so that we don't get all of this stuff stuck inside us. Now, what I'd like you to imagine is there is a similar thing going on, and this isn't in the Northern tradition, this is an imagining, that the Valkyrie, the so-called bringers of death, or the bringers of fate, bearing in mind that we're talking about victory over death, and that Valkyrie really bring us into new life at the end of the day. That's what they do. They come to fallen heroes and they bear their souls up to Valhalla, or to wherever they're going. So they are soul guides in their own right. But they are also destiny weavers, similar to the Nornir. We could work with the Nornir as well, similar to the Disir in that way, with this sort of collective group of feminine spirits, largely. Disir means like lady, Nornir obviously means fate or nurturer. It can also mean, or mourner, apologies. Disir means, Disir comes from the root of nurturer. Nornir comes from the root of mourner. Birth and death. there you go, one packet. And the Valkyrie are in amongst them, bearing people up to great fates. So imagine that they are flying around, and that some of them might be carrying ideas, they might be carrying creative ideas, they might be carrying, the way that I feel into them is that they can be muses. So we know that from the legend of Valand, for example. They can be muses in the same way that Elizabeth Gilbert would describe them. But they also carry purpose and destiny and fate with them. And imagine that they're looking out for somebody. You know, I've got this thing that needs to happen, says the Valkyrie. This thing that's important, the gods have decreed it, and it needs to happen. And they're looking out for a soul who can carry that fate. And what they will do is they will find that soul who is most capable of carrying that fate, and who's sending out the signals saying, I'm ready, I'd like to do this, this will be good. And here's the rub. In our modern world, we are taught particular ways of being, particular ways of working, particular ways of showing up, particular ways of saying, you know, I'm ready to do this work. And the Valkyrie, even if you are doing work or you're living in a way that feels unaligned and challenging and difficult, if that's what you're doing, that's the frequency that you're sending out into the world. You know, bring it on, I can do it, a little bit of martyr energy going on there, come on, you know, I can soldier through, it'll be fine. I'm talking from personal experience here. You know, I will keep on going, I will take this burden, that burden, this one, that. And I go, oh, okay, well, that's a person who's willing to do stuff, not like, you know, them over there who's just like lying about doing nothing. So they will come and they will bring these more burdens for the person who says, I'm ready to carry the burden. You know, that's what they will do. But they will also respond to the person who says, this is the life I choose for myself. This is what feels good. This is what feels right to me. This is what sets my soul on fire. And when the Valkyrie get to bring a purpose or a piece of work or destiny weaving or a creative idea to somebody who is lit up when they bring that, and it doesn't feel like a burden, it feels amazing, that's got to be a better day for the Valkyrie, I think. You know, that's a better working day for them. You know, they need to drop off that piece of the puzzle somewhere. So let's be hopeful and courageous, but let's also stand in the energy that we want to say, you know, I'm ready for the right thing to come to me. I want it to be joyful and magnificent and wonderful. And all of this is very much that swallow energy of the new moon. So when you think about your intention setting, feel into that. Does it feel good? Does it feel a little bit of excitement? You know, bearing in mind that sometimes fear and excitement can feel very similar. This is where the courage piece comes in. Now, this is that moment where we go, can I really do that? Oh, I'm not sure. No, and we pass through that. So it's not that, you know, I only want to have easy things that, you know, I could just do in my sleep, but like falling off a log. No, but it's saying I want to do things that make me feel expansive. You know, what words would you choose if you wanted to describe it? I would choose, you know, like expansive, curious, loving, connected. All these words come through, you know, for, yeah, this is what I want life to be like. What do you want your life to be like? Bring them out. So when you're working with your rune, it's not just here's a shopping list of stuff that I want to get done. It's also what energy do I want to be in, and what energy is the rune inviting me into. So the example that I'm going to give you is for me. So I wanted to set some intentions for myself. I knew I wanted to work with my solar plexus. That had been feeling quite challenging, and when I saw the new moon in Suella, I was like, I felt into that. And the rune that felt really strong, I sang my runes, and the rune that felt really strong was Uru. So I was like, okay, so that feels like a really great healing rune for me. One of the intentions that I have for this month is to feel into how to evolve Sooner Star Wheel, for those of you who are in Sooner Star Wheel, so that we can align this solar and lunar energy that we've now got coming through Middle Earth readings and make that even more juicy and delicious for you. So what's going to work with that? And I'm finalising Vision Quest, the next retreat that we're going to be doing coming up for the equinox, the spring equinox. I was like, oh, you know, as well as setting these very strong containers for the rest of my programs for the coming year. And as I felt into those, I could feel that sort of uruz energy coming through. I was like, I don't need to draw my rune because I know that it's going to be uruz. It just is. It's the powerhouse rune. It also happens to be my Nornir's gift rune, so it's the rune that the Nornir chose for me to help me in moments when my destiny felt a bit big, a bit challenging. Then your Nornir's gift comes along, and it's a balancer rune. It helps. So I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me that it would be uruz. So uruz, for any of you who have drawn uruz, will bring this grounded, earthy and container energy to the other runes that we are working with. So if we've got the uruz rune here, here's my uruz rune. So it can be that tenacity and that moving forward and the strength that we need when these other runes, when Suelo and Tewaz, are drawing us forward and getting a bit excited and jumping up and down and saying this direction, this way. Tewaz is pointing and saying this way, this is where the way victory lies. And Suelo is going, open your heart more, open more, expand more, be braver, do more, step into courage, all of these things. Uruz comes and says, don't worry, I've got your back. No, so this is a great don't worry, I've got your back rune. And for me, it was also that container energy where if you turn it, so we've talked about Brighton Merkstaves. I did a live about Brighton Merkstaves, which is available in the guide section. You can look at the Ask Maggie guide section. And so when it's upside down, it doesn't always mean negative. And I can see that some of you have got your runes and you've got that lying on its side or reverse. So they don't always mean, oh, this is bad, you're weak. No, for me, I thought about this and I was like, no, this is about setting a very strong container for my energy. And that's how I work with uruz a lot. I work with it as this container. When we feel into the Merkstaves of the runes, and it's quite advanced now, it's a work that I do a lot with my mastery cohort. We look at the way in which when we claim the shadow half of the rune, when we claim its shadow side, it no longer becomes negative. It becomes another manifestation of its power, that recognition that, I was one of those people who would just take on more and more and more and more and say, yeah, that's fine, I'll keep doing that. And I've had to learn that is the shadow of the uruz rune, that the uruz rune does that. It says, I'm strong enough, I can do it. And then I had to move into the shadow and say, no, I am not strong enough and I cannot do it. And I had to claim that power, which is the power to say no and to contain my own energy and to use things like the symbol right to proclaim what I'm going to do, to set intentions, as we are doing today. And then once you set your intentions, if someone comes along and says, look at this amazing opportunity, isn't this wonderful? You already have a set of intentions that you either need to feel into and say, well, am I going to give up what I've just said as those intentions and follow somebody else's path? Does that feel right? Or does it align with my intentions? Is this going to work well for me? It gives you a much more concrete way of channeling your energy so that you're not going in all directions. Follow your Tewaz rune, follow your Suelo rune, and use your uruz rune for that strength. So if you have your uruz rune, I'm going to be doing a lot of energy healing work, especially around my solar plexus with the uruz rune. So if you've done any of the Awaken course with me and you've done the healing with the runes ones, you can look at that and you can look at how you can work with your uruz rune to support that, using your starred galdra, using your galdra, as well as thinking about it in terms of doing a quite a formal rites of intention setting with your intentions and saying, every time I get pulled off path, what's my uruz rune telling me? It's saying, get back on the path. Get back on the path. So that's the uruz rune. Let's have a look and see what other people have got. So we've got Suelo has come up quite a few times. Lovely to see you, Maggie there, Suzanne. So excited. Suelo is my lunar month rune as well. So you have got that as well. Sally-Ann also has Suelo. So let's go with you three. A little group there for Suelo. Here we go. So we've got our new moon in Suelo. We've got Suna's chariot in Suelo at the moment. And Odin will be moving into Suelo. So it's a really powerful rune to be working with. Suelo, what's the word I'm looking for? It comes at the end of the second 8 of runes, so the challenger 8, and we're going to be looking at Hargalas because I deliberately wanted to choose one that was going to be a bit more difficult to square with these energies. We're going to be looking at that later. But Suelo comes at the end when the challenges are over, when the difficulties have passed and we are at a point of either of being able to sort of, we found that humor inside us that says, okay, yeah, life is challenging right now. It's really challenging right now, but there I have access to faith and I have access to hope that opens me back up to what might be possible. And it allows me to take that leap of faith and to move forward. And not just to do that, but also to say to other people, follow me. You know? And that's it's such an important part of our self-leadership, that Suelo rune. It brings there's a humility in it. But you know, I was talking about the sort of martyr who takes on everything and says, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. Suelo doesn't do that. It's actually very light rune. It says, I need to travel lightly. I need to have just what I need in the moment. For you with your Suelo runes, when you're thinking about what intentions you are setting for yourself, you're probably also going to want to think about, in an even more deliberate way than with the Uru's rune, you want to think about, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to leave behind? Because otherwise it's going to weigh me down. Imagine a Viking ship setting off. We did a lot of work on this last month with the Sigatiba and Solmonov, with that energy that we had in the last month. What do you need to put on board your ship to travel on this particular adventure, to achieve these particular intentions? Don't take anything else. You know, anything that you can do to defer. And look at what you're setting up for yourself, and look at that and say, you know, I'm going to defer those things because they're going to weigh my ship down, and that's not what I need for this particular voyage. It doesn't mean that it's not important, but it means that it's not important for this particular voyage. And feel into joy and freedom and lightness, and always remember the power of humor. It was always remember a conversation I had with somebody who had Suelo in his birth rune like multiple times, and he was just saying, yeah, this ability to be like the lightning strike in the room when the energy's getting a bit heavy and everyone's like, oh. And he would just sort of say something and it would make everybody laugh. And the power of humour comes in very strongly with Suelo. If we think about Hagalaz, the rune of the storm, when something happens that is really, really challenging and really, really difficult, it can be really difficult for us to find our humour. Yeah? And Suelo represents that journey back into a sense of freedom, even when it's really difficult. There is still freedom, there is still lightness. It's feeling into that. And although Suelo, obviously you can work with the solar plexus because the sun, it's an energy center, it's going to be very similar. I'm feeling the heart center quite strongly for all of you as well in working with that. So when you're setting your intentions, think about that. How can I travel lightly? What do I really need? How can I bring humor and lightness and joy into what I'm doing? Suelo is also a great rune for dancing. For anybody who I do the Isa rune, what's the word I'm looking for? The Isa meditation, where we really powerfully channel the Isa rune through our bodies. I always do a lovely Suelo dance afterwards to get us back into movement. So anytime you feel like you're stuck, movement is key for those of you with this, your Suelo rune. So we're looking for movement, we're looking for freedom, we're looking for lightness, we're looking for laughter. Anything that you can use in your energy that shifts the energy of the room around you is something that you can claim within your Suelo power. Okay, so being the energetic shift, being the lightning strike, being the sun warming the cold space in the morning, being the movement, all of those things will be really powerful for you. Esther, hi Esther, so you've got Manaz, so we will be doing Manaz later in the month, but lovely to see you. Candice, so you're working with your first thread this month as you're working with Hagalaz, so it's always really lovely when you have a rune, and I said that my Norni's gift is Uruz, and so I'm feeling really strongly into that rune. So when you get a rune that is also one of your birth runes, it's such a great opportunity to work with them at a deeper level. I'm really glad that you've got Hagalaz, because it felt important to bring in the Hagalaz rune. Hagalaz and Ansu's wanted to speak today, so we're going to be looking at them. So that Hagalaz rune here, this big sort of H letter, always makes me think of hospital. You know, it's that... nobody really wants to go to the hospital, but obviously going to the hospital when you need to is the best thing to do. And that's sort of a bit Hagalaz-y. No one wants to be like, yeah, I'm going to, well, apart from Suzanne, because she's awesome. Nobody wants to go into the Hagalaz storm energy. until we've claimed its shadow. And yet it's the place that we need to go. It's that really strong disruptor, clearing away stuff that is really holding us back. And to a certain extent, with the Hagalaz rune this month, you might feel some impatience around this, because the Tewaz energy, the Suelo energy, and the spring energy is all guiding us forwards. It's saying tend to your vision, tend to what you're feeling into, what you want to create and what you want to achieve through the course of the year. Now is the time to set this. And with the Hagalaz energy, it's going, no, that's not good, that's not good. It's still bringing what can feel like quite a winter vibe. And so what I would feel into here for you this month is that while the Hagalaz rune presents its very strong face about November time in the northern hemisphere, and it continues to work through in the winter. Actually, certainly in this country and now in the world in general, we have storm energy there all of the time. And it's almost saying, for whatever reason, at this point in human history, we have to become more comfortable with the Hagalaz energy, because we have to be able to bring change, accept change, move very quickly with change, adapt very quickly to change, step from the Hagalaz back into the Suelo, so Hagalaz at the beginning of the second date, allow ourselves to feel it. No, we don't have the luxury of pretending it's not happening. And Candice, just because I'm not speaking to you on this one, I'm speaking this feels like this is a collective piece. We don't have the luxury of pretending that everything is okay. Some people do, the super rich, let's say. No, I'm being facile now. But more and more we are recognizing how the challenges that are out there in the world, and more, I believe that more and more people are being born into the world with a greater level of sensitivity to the cracks and the difficulties, and that's the Hagalaz energy. And it is not there to make our lives difficult, it is there to ensure we survive. That is its job. And so there is, for me, Candice, I would say that there is a real claiming of the Hagalaz power as something that is available to you and around you when you need it. It is that first thread energy. So for you, it is being able to harness the power of the storm that can feel as if it's happening around you, and channel it back out into the world, to feel the depths of what stirs in your soul when the Hagalaz energy is crackling around your edges, and to draw it in and then express it outwards. That's what I'm feeling for you specifically. And to recognize that the crystalline, beautiful, new birthing world, the thing that Hretha, the goddess, this goddess of spring, this goddess of victory, is looking for, is the pattern that is held within the Hagalaz rune. So it holds the possibility of the new, of the rebirth of the new within it. So that's going to be it'll be a lovely rune to work with, as long as you're on board with it. I think when we resist the Hagalaz energy, it becomes more difficult. It becomes more challenging for us. And so it is saying, how can I be change? How can I open to change? How can I celebrate change? How can I celebrate the storm? Lots of things that you can do just in terms of like maybe listening to storm music, doing the any of the Hagalaz meditations that are available to you, whether you're on Awaken or whether you want to go and look at the Megan Rose website for that. I'm really feeling into that, and there's something else that's on the tip of my tongue and I'm trying to feel into it. You know what I'm feeling on this one with the Hagalaz one, so I'll share this with all of you, is I'm feeling almost like the cracking of the earth. When we think about Hagalaz, we think about the hail seed, but I know at the moment there is a terrible, devastating tragedy that has taken place in our world, with Turkey and with Syria, and that the natural disasters that happen bring out the best and the worst in humanity. And you can certainly see that with what's happening within the news and how difficult it is to bring aid in those moments. And Hagalaz to me is saying there is always a choice as to how we respond. We cannot blame the storm. We cannot blame the earthquake. These things will always happen. But we must recognize that the tools of survival, or of being like the hospital, of being the healer, of being the person who goes that extra mile, who does that extra thing, those are the things that define us. So don't blame the storm. Don't blame others. Don't, take shelter and pretend it's not happening. It's saying, there is so much heroism out there in the world. What type of hero do you want to be? Is sort of what is, I think, what the Hagalaz rune is saying. It is saying there will always be earthquakes, there will always be storms, but how we ride them, and whether we choose to ride them together, that's what will define us. So that's what's coming from the Hagalaz rune there. So soon, never fear, we will come to Thurisaz later in the month. New moon rune Athala, says Lisa. That will be the case for you as well, Lisa. But still, please do, after having listened to what I'm saying, please do share now after the session what intentions you are setting for your work with your rune through the course of this this coming month. Lauren, good morning. So you have got Tewaz. So we go, yes, Tewaz is one of the runes we're going to be looking at today, because we have Suna's chariot moving into Tewaz. So the sun is moving into Tewaz on the 26th. So it is this rune of, I'm talking about this whole month as being like a month of victory and courage. And Tewaz invites us into our most courageous self, but it is a more mature self than the sort of like maybe like that sort of instinctive Thurisaz energy. There are caveats. Tewaz holds caveats within it. It says, I will fight, but I will only fight in these conditions. There is a strong awareness of personal boundaries and personal truth that we pursue. That sense in which, if you imagine a fighting unit, this could be anything. It could be a team. It could be, it doesn't have to be combat. Any group that is working together towards a common goal. What the Tewaz rune does is it says you can achieve so much when you all work together. But every single one of you is an individual, and if there is something that you see that you don't like, or if there is a way that you see that you think this would actually be better, the Tewaz rune says, say it or do it. There is an individuality and a celebration of individuality here. It is a standing in sovereignty, which comes so strongly with the third 8, this ability to claim our own power and to say, you might have thought that this was everything that I was, but I've just had an experience which has revealed something new to me about myself, and now I'm going to follow that truth. So it's almost, I've talked about the Hagalaz rune being that disruptor rune, and sometimes the Hagalaz rune comes along and we have no time to question. If we want to do something, we have to do it straight away. We have to move, and then we come out and we go, oh, whoa, I just didn't know that about myself. Even with the Suella rune, it's a very instinctive rune. It's like following our instincts. And then Tewaz comes along and it says, I've just learned something new about myself. I've learned that this is who I am. So this is what the Tewaz rune offers. There is an inner victory that the Tewaz rune offers. It can be used very effectively for, I don't say the word mundane, that sounds wrong. It can be used very effectively for channeling will and saying, I want this outcome from this project, or in this court case, or I'm asking for justice. These things are absolutely, we can use it, we can chant it, we can create a sigil with it, we can do all of those things, and it will offer its energy to us in the external world. But if we want to fully harness its energy, we are doing so on the inside, where we are saying, I'm not going to be with the herd. There is there's a wolf story with Tewaz, with Tyr and the Fenris wolf, but what I'm actually seeing now is this sense in which all of us should be a wolf in sheep's clothing at some point. Much as we love sheep, we are independent beings, and that is incredibly important. Is what the Tewaz rune is offering. So there's a real stepping into power there, Lauren. Now for you, because you've got its Merc stave and it was face down, this is almost a suggestion that for you, you may Obviously no one can see that now, so let's put it so it's this way, but obviously Lauren has brought it so it's face down. Now when I read and think that it's face down, I tend to see this as being like a hidden hidden energetic current that I'm not yet aware of, and so we pay attention to it and we turn the rune and we say, okay, so this might be something that we're not sure of. And with you've got your Teiwaz rune pointing downwards. Now again, if you think about the Teiwaz rune is quite interesting, and I would actually be looking for its energy through the course of this month for you in terms of looking intention setting. So it's about following that your integrity, really feeling into your integrity, and looking for moments when like teaching moments that tell you, nope, that's not who I want to be, that's not what I take a stand for. And it's opening to Teiwaz as a teacher in that sense, and saying sometimes we learn what it means to stand in our own power through witnessing what does not feel powerful or good or authentic or an integrity to us. So I would say open to the opportunities of, I want to know more about my warrior self, more about my sovereign self, more about who I am and the courage that I have inside. And then look for those moments, and they don't have to be things that necessarily happen to you. They can be teaching moments, stories that are shared, things that you see on the news, and just gather them in and allow yourself to feel into anything that feels a bit murky. Literally murks, Dave, that's what it means. A bit like, oh, that's a little bit uncomfortable. Don't instinctively step away necessarily. I don't mean like listen to an entire program and traumatize yourself because it feels absolutely awful. What I mean is, absolutely, it feels horrible. And I was listening to a radio program and I had to turn it off earlier this week. But then I felt into something in me was activated through listening to that. Some old wound that might not have been mine, it might not have been in this lifetime, but it was activated. And I need to deal with that if I'm going to be the person that I want to be in the world, if I'm then able to say, what type of action would I like to take, or how do I want to respond to what I've just heard on the radio? So it's that withdrawal and looking within to the shadow that comes through Lauren in order to discover the hero who says, okay, yeah, everyone else is doing that. That's not me. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, Carolyn. Hello, Maggie, and all of you. You've got Issa. Funny somehow. It is quite funny. We will come to Issa. We're not going to do it today, but yes, there is a. This is why I gave the Hagalaz rune and the Uruz rune as well, because they're quite important. So as you're feeling into the movement energy of Teiwaz and Suelo, if you've got one of the runes that feels more stable, I'm looking forward to playing with Yera and with Issa and Iwaz as well in this context. You're going to be wanting to think about that. It's the balance. So for anybody who's got a rune that feels like, oh, it's not automatically like in momentum, then have a little feel into where's the balance that's needed. What does my rune offer me that's going to complement that energy if the Teiwaz rune and the Suelo rune are actually pulling me too fast and I'm not ready for that yet. Troy, you've got Fayuz, that's a lovely flow rune. We will be coming to that later. Karen Dargaz, Michelle's got Laguz. We've got some lovely flow runes here. You're going to be wanting to play with gateways and water energies. Those are going to be really fun, and they will come up for us and in later sessions this month. But just feel into what intentions do I want to set. And for some of you, it might be, if you've not had this rune before, the intention is, I want to get to know this rune. And if that is the case, then I would offer to you the resource pages on the Mag and Rose website that have all of the Elder Futhark, and every single one of them has a meditation. Obviously, if you're on Awaken, you have a lot more resources as well, but there are some really great free resources available on the website too. Chen, you got Yera this week too. So that's another one that I was like, oh, that's going to be a more of a balancer energy. So we will come to that later. Lovely to see you, Pamela. Suzanne says, Wunyo, Wunyo, Wunyo. Good. I'm pleased. Fantastic. Love this. So need it. That is great. So does Sally Ann. That's wonderful. Hi, Suki. Lovely to see you. Sounds amazing. I got reverse Teiwaz today, so it does feel like I'm being pulled inwards, so that was super helpful. Good. I'm really pleased. Now, which one haven't I done? So we need to do Ewas and we need to do Ansus. So, Ewas is Frigg's chariot. So Frigg's chariot is moving into Ewas, and she brings the partnership energy. So we had a lot of very strong partnership energy last month. And this is it's like a thread, not, we don't always release all of the threads from the tapestry that we've been weaving in the previous month. And when planet like Frigg's chariot, it brings forwards a new iteration. But what Frigg is offering now is, whereas last month we were asking for what support we needed, there was a lot of what support do I need, what collaboration do I need, how do I need to be supported. We did that in Illuminate. We did a lot of work on needs. What are my needs? How can I meet them as effectively as possible? What's in there under the surface, and partnering with spirit. This energy is slightly different. So Frigg's chariot is now starting to think about reciprocity. So she's thinking about service. So it's not forgetting that we need to meet our own needs, that we need to honor them. And, for those of you who did Illuminate, you've got your needs creed to do that, to support you in doing that and to keep on meeting your own needs. But it's then looking at when I am in that state, when, I'm all glowy and shiny, and the Valkyrie are going, oh, what am I going to send Maggie's way? She's sending out some nice signals that she's ready for something juicy and exciting that's going to align with her energy. And then they send it our way. Then we need to rise to that. We need to say, yeah, I'm ready to be the partner for this gift, this offering that the Valkyrie has said, in order for the collective weaving to continue and for the world to become a better place. This is what we need from you. And so it's that reciprocity. And so through the course of this month, if you have the Ewas the Ewas rune, it is a rune of speed. So with Suelo, you've got forward motion. With Tewes, you've got forward motion of the arrow. With Ewes, you've got this very fast, galloping horse energy. But it is always remembering that with the Ewes rune, the horse and the rider, they come together. So the rider is normally, dictates the main direction of travel. Going here, this way, this is the vision, this is the thing. And the Ewes rune, the horse, supports them in doing that. But not always the case. Sometimes the horse is obviously stronger than the person, so they provide the strength, but they also provide the instinct for safety. For am I going off course? For I know you want to go directly that way, but there's a horrible marsh that way, and I'm not going that way. I'm going round. So it's, again, if this is another one of the runes that it's in the third eight, so it's a synthesizing. It's a saying there are always multiple perspectives to take in. So you're going to want to be thinking about, as you're moving forward, how are you nurturing the partnerships that support you in doing your work? So it's that two-way. What am I giving? What am I receiving? What am I giving? What am I receiving? Is the rhythm that you want to be in. And that's a useful way to think about Ewes, is there is a rhythm within it, of the da-dum, da-dum, da-dum sound of the two working together. And the rider listens. He listens to, I say he, any, the human listens to the pace of the horse, listens to its breath, knows when it needs to rest, knows when it needs to stop for water, pays attention to the horse. So you can think about yourself, if you're doing meditations with Ewes, you can think about yourself as being the horse sometimes. I'm the one bringing the energy. I've been given this purpose, and my job is to bring that forward and birth it into the world. And you can think about yourself as the rider, being, I am setting the direction and the intention, and what support do I need in order to do that. So you can do both. So it's that moving backwards and forwards with the Ewes rune. I was feeling as whether anything else is coming forward with that from Frigg. I think the only other thing to bear in mind with the Frigg chariot in Ewaz is that she is the mistress of collaboration with her, with her Isinyor, these goddesses who support her. She stays in zone. And I talked about the Uruz rune as being my helper for managing this energy. So although Ewaz is a fast-paced rune, similar to Suelo and Tewaz, so it can feel a bit like, whoa, I'm just moving forward, this is going very fast. One of the pieces of the Ewaz rune that you can feel into is, am I in my own lane? And by that I mean, Frigg doesn't often go out and deliver messages out in the world herself, because she has Na to do that, the goddess of messages, often said to be Frigg's will made manifest in the world. Frigg stays in her own lane. She says, why would I do that when Na is better at it than me? And this is part of the humility that I was talking about with it was Suelo, wasn't it? So Tewaz, Suelo, and Ewaz all bring this energy. They're all in the later parts. They're very close to each other in the rune road. So they bring this real sense of, again, when I'm in my sovereign power, I don't try to do everything. So it's who is your herd, who is your tribe, who can support you. And sometimes we can move faster, we can get more done by not doing everything, and by, I was talking about deferral as being one way of working. Which rune was that? Right at the beginning we were talking about deferral, weren't we? I think that was with the Suelo rune, wasn't it? With the Ewaz rune we're looking at delegation. So what can you delegate? So Frigg offers that to you with your Ewaz rune as well. And then I wanted to bring in the Ansu's rune, because it was just whispering. It was saying, I want the Ansu's rune. And as I'm reading, I can see that Suzanne's just said, Solfeggio and storm music is my favourite thing to clear my energies. That is lovely. And it's so Ansu'y, so I'm glad that it came up at that time. It's that the wind, the rushing of the waters, the cleansing, the clearing, the ideas coming through. So it does work with Tewaz and Suelo. Again, it's a rune of speed. And with Ewaz as well. I have Ewaz and Ansu's, and it's all very, yes, there's a lot going on. These in my birth runes, I should say. So with the Ansu's rune, if you have the Ansu's rune, again, the use of the voice. So for you, you might not want to write down your intentions, or if you write them down, you want to speak them out loud. So get somebody to listen to them, or speak them to the moon is another beautiful way of doing that. Speak those intentions out loud. Think about how you're using your voice. If you can do any voice warm-up exercises, for those of you who are an awaken, you can do your vocal galdra module. Again, really get into that use of the voice and breathing as deep as you can. And this is where the Ansu's rune, again, I've been talking about claiming the full power of the rune. And when we're in our discovery mode with Ansu's, we think about it in terms of communication and the headspace and thoughts, or ideas flowing, and Huggin and Mun and the two ravens, and they're coming and they're landing on the shoulders and they're going, whoa, ideas, ideas, ideas. But when we are deepening into the power of Ansu's, we deepen in through the breath and we draw it down inside the body, and the breath is taken to every cell in the body, and every cell in the body uses that energy and transforms it. And when we breathe out, it is a totally different concoction of air. It is no longer oxygen. We're not breathing out oxygen. And so there is a process of alchemization that takes place, where Ansu's transfers ideas into transformation, into manifestation, into the next phase. So there is a grounding, and it's worth bearing in mind that the Ansu's rune holds within it both the ash tree and the oak tree. So later runes that came from it brought out these different ideas, and the oak tree is that stabilizing. Again, the sovereign self is coming through very strongly, and I think perhaps that's something we should think about in terms of courage and hope. Is if you're sovereign, of the two things that you might need most in the world, courage to stand up every day and say, I think we should do this, even when you're not sure, and hope, being the embodiment of hope for others, they're so important for us. So when you're feeling into your Ansu's rune, if you're feeling into the headspace, it's bringing that down into the rest of the body and saying, king or queen, they are not just a head, they are a full body. Then they can point in the right direction. Then they can be in that calm, centered, anchored space, which is why we state our intentions. I know that I'm not alone in being one of those people where you can get so many ideas that sort of come in to your mind, and you go, I could do this and I can do that, and by the time it gets like 10 o'clock in the morning, you've already had so many ideas about what might be possible, and sometimes you don't even catch hold of one of them and bring it into manifestation because you're already exhausted. And Ansu says, what processes do you need to use to channel that energy? Which is why things like speaking the symbol right, just choosing 3, those things are important. When all of the wind is whirling around, you only need to catch hold of one thread and weave that thread into the tapestry with the Ansu's rune. So lots to play with there in terms of intention setting. For Ansu's, you might want to, again, like journaling is very important, bringing all of other ideas to the surface, and then committing and saying, I don't have to do everything, but I'm going to choose something. Pamela, you've got Perth Rose, so that's going to be coming later in the month. Suki, you're saying, I've just worked with Yera, Iwas and Perth Rose, holding them, learning symbols, reading on them, listen to your recordings on them. Wonderful. I'm really, really pleased. And obviously we're working through Middle-earth readings now on quite deep dives into a rune over a long period of time. But there are so many other ways that you can work with the runes. You can work with them daily, you can work with them combined. Yeah, we're just working on deepening at the moment, but that's lovely as well. I can see that you're working through them in order, so enjoy, and just let us know in the intentions what intentions you are going to set for yourself for your what I think of as our spirit. If we claim the runes as spirit guides, they're not just there to hear us some information, they are available to us as spirit guides. What is it that we would like from our work with them? Lauren says, thank you, very interesting readings, using the negative experiences to work out what's right. Good, I'm glad that's helpful to you. Yeah, and the Tewas, that's stepping into your strongest and authentic self, is very much part of Tewas. Sally Ann is saying, Valkyrie Muse came in and whispered that Maggie mentioned vision questing. I am asking for a live one soon, please. The spring equinox retreat is going to be called Vision Quest, and I am finalising it this week as one of my intentions that I'm setting. Carolyn says, thank you, makes so much sense. It's my dance of life, fire and ice. Having Issa and Suelo dominated time seems to describe my path. Yeah. Maggie says, Ansu's is my first thread. And Michelle says, I really like Ansu's energy. I do too. So we have come to the end of our first news session. So for my invitation to you will be, Suzanne is going to post a lovely invitation to you after this session to share not only your rune, but the intentions that you are holding for the work that you would like to do with this rune. It can be, what do I want to receive? It can be, these are the things that I want to get done this month, and I'm open to how this rune is going to support me in doing those. It could be, my intention is actually just to become more attuned to the rune. Now, whatever it is, post your intentions for how you're going to be working with your rune for the coming month. And then next week we are going to be looking at receiving. So receiving from your rune, and we'll be looking at a different 6 runes. But yes, let's keep going together and keep traveling together, whether or not your rune came up today or not. So lovely to see all of you. Take care, and I will see you all again very soon. Michelle says, where do we post them? Suzanne is going to do a little post and then post underneath. Okay, wonderful. Take care, everybody, and see you very soon.